Welcome, Sarah Jane from Eden Hypnotherapy and Natural Health to the Cauldron of Curiosities. Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
So, Sarah Jane, what's stirring your pot today?
Lots of things, lots of things.
So, if we were going to take one of the things when you woke up this morning, was there something that you felt quite curious about when you woke up?
How this would go, I think, having not really done much regarding podcasts, I was very curious to know what it entailed and how it would go.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really difficult because you can script things to the finest degree, and it doesn't mean it's going to work out quite right. You know, the dog might bark, or Zoom might decide that it's not going to work, or something within the recording fails, and that can completely change the whole dynamic, can't it?
Yes.
So you've come today to talk partly about what you do and what makes you curious about the work that you do. And I wanted to ask, first of all, which therapy that you do really whets your appetite? Which is the one that gives you the biggest buzz?
Cool. That's it depends which perspective you come from. If you come from a perspective of, I suppose, safety and familiarity, then it's my massage. When I started out 25 years ago, I started my training for massage as a holistic therapist. It just seemed to come really natural, and it's my bread and butter. It's what keeps me going. It's what brings people back time after time and recommending, and has continued for the last 25 years. And it's just as soon as I put my hands on somebody who has some kind of sore muscle, tight muscle, shoulder problem, back problem, my hands just seem to know exactly what is needed and where to go.
Mm-hmm.
However, over the years, I've introduced various extra techniques into my massage, mainly because, being realistic, 25 years of massaging, my hands have got to the stage where they don't want to be doing it so much. So quite soon after I finished my training, I introduced the hot stones, and I learned that with a guy who was a what was he? He was a chiropractor, I think, and he used them within his chiropractic business. And I found the therapeutic benefits of them incorporated with the massage to be phenomenal. So I always use hot stones. I always use aromatherapy oils, because within the holistic training we did aromatherapy, though it be to quite a low level. We still did the aromatherapy, so I still use holistic essential oils within my massage, and I have a mix that I use for the majority of cases, because most people come to me with problems with their muscles, tightness, stiffness, joints not moving. And then more recently, I've obviously been introduced to the tuning forks, and they are just phenomenal within massage. Absolutely phenomenal. Years ago, I had a sonic massager. I had a little electric sonic massager that created really good effects, and the plug broke and I never replaced it because it was quite expensive. And I thought, I wasn't sure how much good it did. I knew it did do good, but I wasn't really sure how much good. And then to, by chance, stumble across the forks, and start using those within massage, the results speak for themselves. I've had people come that have had sore. I had one guy who came and it was under his shoulder blade, and he'd been trying various things for weeks and it just wouldn't go. And within 5 minutes, using massage oils, stones, and then the forks, 5, 7 minutes, it was gone. It literally, I could feel this knot just disperse. And he's not had an issue with it since. So, and he actually came back at the weekend. He had a problem with his lower back that he'd been really suffering with, and he just wanted me to sort it. And he texted me later that evening to say it feels so much better. So the forks speak for themselves. So that is turning into much more of a passion. But along the way, I'd also sort of switched from doing manual healing to working verbally, with using EFT tapping, counselling skills, metaphysics, to get people to understand more about their problems. I also do something called timeline therapy. I don't know whether you've heard of it. It's quite similar to sort of inner child work.
Do you want to tell us about the timeline therapy?
Timeline therapy, yes. When I originally trained to do my hypnotherapy, it was an aspect of the course, and a guy called Tad James created this therapy, and it's about you having a timeline and being able to go up and down your timeline. You can go into your timeline and you can revisit events and either remove them, change them, or whatever is appropriate. And by doing that, it then has a knock-on effect in how you feel today because you've changed an event from a long time ago. I now use that not only as sort of a talking therapy, I will also incorporate the EFT tapping into that. I'm very much about learning lots of things and putting them all into the pot and seeing what works best for a certain person. And I think that with your curiosity thing I'm really curious to see how when you're going back into a memory and you add in somebody going, your older self going into the younger version of yourself, and your older self being able to tap on whatever's going on in that situation to calm your younger self and change it, so that it doesn't resonate in the same way, I find absolutely fascinating, and the results have been phenomenal. Again, it's yeah.
So what percentage would you say you do physical versus mental treatment?
At the beginning of last year, I was looking at that and looking at wanting to change the balance. And over the course of last year, I noticed a big shift more towards the mental side. But as I say, my massage is my bread and butter. It's what I've been known for. So at the moment, I would say it's probably about 50-50. And I love the massage. I love the effectiveness, the instant result that people feel and know. With the mental health work, it takes longer and it takes a bit more time for them to actually see the adjustments. And obviously, it's not me doing the work. I'm giving them the tools and assisting. It's down to them to make the changes themselves. And sometimes that can be very difficult when whatever is going on for that person actually serves a purpose for them. So, though on the outside they want to change, inside they don't, because it for whatever reason it's serving a purpose.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because what you say about the outcome, how does it benefit the individual? Because sometimes we see that getting well might not actually benefit the individual,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah,
might not realize that. And that's actually quite a difficult thing for them to come to terms with, that
very much.
being sick or being where they are serves them. It's got service, and
Yeah,
it's exploring how do they let that go, especially if it's supporting their lifestyle. You know, like having
yeah,
money coming in, for example, that can
yeah,
be very difficult.
yeah.
So you mentioned that you started 25 years ago with massage. So what did you do? Was it Swedish massage, or what did you do?
I did the, I think it's called IHHT course, which was a course specifically in holistic therapy. So we did things like um, we started off with Swedish massage, then went on to learning about oils and did aromatherapy massage. We did reflexology, we did nutrition, we did counseling. Um, what else did we do? Oh, business studies. So it was like a whole encompassing course about holistic therapy and how to be a holistic therapist. Not that if you say to somebody you're a holistic therapist, they haven't got a clue what you mean. And they often say, what is a holistic therapist? And trying to explain that it's you come to me, say, with a bad back. Okay, we can work with the bad back with the massage, but then we look at the whole picture. Why have you got the bad back? What is there an emotional issue associated with the bad back? Is it a lifestyle change you need to make? Is it a work change? What's going on out and around? So we're looking at the whole person, not just at the issue. But trying to get people to understand that at times can be challenging.
So do you put out any marketing or promotion material that explains to people what you do?
Yes, I have a young lady who does my social media who is phenomenal. I'm not tech savvy. I'm myself are dyslexics, and sometimes if I try to put down what I want to say, I understand it perfectly. Somebody else looks at it and thinks, what the hell are you on about? So
Mm.
I have a young lady who does my social media, and once a month I have to send her what I'm wanting to cover, and she creates the most brilliant, amazing posts for me. But yes, she will explore various avenues and explain things how I want them to.
And do you want to share her name?
Her name's Chessie Embleton. I think that's what she's going because she got divorced or separated. She's on Instagram, and I'll have to send you the link for her
Yeah, no, that'd be
um,
brilliant. Thank you.
because she also does. I'm going to do a course she does little master classes that are a couple of hours long on Zoom, and they're 10-15 quid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm doing one on how to do reels, and I'm then going to do one on Copcat. I don't know, something that you edit videos with.
Okay.
So yeah, she's really good, knows her stuff. Yeah, and I'm
That can be
privileged.
really helpful, can't it?
Yeah, and I'm really privileged that I was her first sort of client when she went out on her own. She was working as a marketing assistant for a family company, and she really wanted to do her own thing.
Mm.
So I was her first social media client, and I've been with her probably about 2.5, 3 years now, and I've noticed the change, and how people now do find me through Instagram and what have you. Not as much as people may think. You get that, you do these wonderful posts, you spend hours doing these posts, and actually, in the scheme of things, very few people look at them.
Yes.
But it does, what I do find is obviously recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People will recommend you, and then people will then look at my Instagram site and they can see what goes on.
Yeah.
I also have quite a few little videos on there. We do a filming session every now and then, and I'll do a little filming sessions. So there's little tapping scripts that you can follow along with. So if somebody's feeling overwhelmed today, they can go on there and find a little tapping around overwhelm. They can find one around anxiety. So that there's stuff there to help people on a day-to-day basis without having to necessarily pay to see a therapist.
Okay. And you mentioned the word tapping there, which I understand what it is, but can you explain what tapping is to our listeners, please?
Okay, tapping is EFT, emotional freedom technique, and it's where you tap on um, ends of meridian points, which are the energy centers that go through your body. And it has been clinically proven that by tapping on these points, it calms the amygdala, and also it reduces cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone that you release when you go into flight and fright. It's your stress hormone. So if you have an issue, um, say like you're frightened of spiders, and even the word spider um, has so many connotations and it can send you into a panic. By tapping on the points, while saying the negative aspect, it allows your brain to reduce that cortisol, so it's not having the same response when it hears the word spider, because it's learning to calm while hearing that word. And then it then allows another time when it comes up and somebody says the word spider, your body doesn't react in the same way. It's learned to react in a more calm way. It doesn't need to release the cortisol. I suppose that's about, yeah. So it can be used in lots of different ways. I use it with the children, with my grandchildren. If I'm finding something really overwhelming and I can feel my anxiety rising, I will sit and tap through. Sometimes people get really hung up about what they have to say, because there is a set sort of routine that you can do, but just tapping and talking about how you're feeling is enough, because it's reducing that cortisol while you're addressing what you're feeling. So yeah.
So, in essence, it's the actual physical activity and the word association, not the sentencing of it, that's important.
No,
Yeah.
it's that yeah, a word association, because before I used to perhaps break down what all the aspects of an issue, which sometimes I still do, but sometimes literally just using one word, especially when you're working with children who don't necessarily understand all the aspects. They know spider, frightened,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or don't like, or scream, or whatever. So just saying the word spider already conjures up lots of pictures, lots
Yes.
of thoughts, lots of things. So you don't need to actually break it down too much. You can just use the one word and literally tap round saying that one particular word, and it will still reduce the cortisol that is being released. And as that cortisol is reduced, you become calmer, so that when that word is said again, it doesn't have the same effect.
Perfect. That sounds excellent. I remember when we were talking before we um came on to the recording today, we talked about you like using sound and the tuning forks with
Yeah,
EFT. So
yeah.
how does that work?
Because when you tap, you're tapping on the meridian points, and in effect, you're sending a vibration in by tapping.
Mm-hmm.
So to use a tuning fork and apply that to the meridian end of the meridian point, um, because the sound and the vibration goes right down to a cellular level, and it doesn't matter your beliefs, it's still physically going in much deeper. I've
Mm.
found it to be so effective when using it on the points going round while saying the one word. So it takes out perhaps that need uh, for you to tap
Mm-hmm.
doing the fork. So again, especially if it's somebody's had a trauma or somebody's had an event that they can't voice, they find even voicing it um, too difficult. If we can name it, give it a name, the name doesn't have to mean anything to me, but the name can mean so much to them. It could be, I don't know, say somebody, God forbid, was abused and it was on a hill. It could be just saying hill.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
by using that hill means nothing to me,
Mm.
but to them has got so much more. So then to use the forks to allow that um, calmness to go right down to the very right into those cells and calm them while going round is so powerful, so powerful. And they don't have to share what the experience, but it's
Mm.
enough to be able for them to change how that experience feels. I can't take that experience away, but how it affects them can be changed.
Yeah. So that would actually be quite useful in some situations where people are dealing with PTSD, for example,
Very
where
much.
I've heard some people who experience it say they don't want to revisit the episode that causes the PTSD. So doing something that works without the requirement to talk about it
Yeah.
would be quite useful for them, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And not having it, because it's that fine line. They don't want to talk about it, but to a certain extent, they've got to instigate some of those feelings to be able to change them. But they're in control of that, not me. So, to what extent it goes in, um, and again, it can be done quite slowly. They could start with one part of it, one aspect, um, for them to then start to feel calm about that, for them then to be able to go a bit further and learn it. For them, I think it would be about learning to trust the process and understanding that actually they don't have to voice to me, it's how they feel internally. And by calming that, those experiences can have a massive effect. And I know when they first, Gary Craig first ventured into EFT tapping and that lot, I read an article about how they went out to my memory's not breast at times, but they went out to a third world country where children had been abused within this section of society. It was something that was on the news and what have you. And they went out and they had an hour with a group of children, and some of them had EFT tapping and some of them didn't. And they literally had an hour to change how these children felt. And they went back some 6-9 months later and discovered that the children that had the tapping and used the tapping had been able to move on with their lives far more than the children that had nothing or just had talking therapy. So, you know, for me, the results speak for themselves.
So it would be nice to think that there were more people offering those therapies out there. And so where can people find you if they would like to come to you for EFT?
You can find me on Facebook or on Instagram. I think it's Eden _hypnotherapy_natural. And that will lead you to my pages on there. I can work with people remotely if they're not local to me. Something that I tend not to do too much of, but it works just as well. I've had a young lady who had recently, or at the time had recently come out of a marriage that she realized he was a narcissist, or at the time she didn't realize, but we worked through to discover that actually he was quite a narcissist. And now seeing her like 3 years on, and how she's blossomed and changed and how confident she feels in herself, is brilliant. Because you know, being in a narcissistic relationship can lead you to feel totally worthless and, you know, very out of control, and that you have no control. So learning how you can have control and how you can get yourself back is really beneficial.
Yeah. And it's more common, isn't it? Nowadays, it seems people are talking about their relationships and where there have been issues with control. So I wanted to ask, out of curiosity, what is on the cards next for you?
Oh, what's on the I'm doing this year I've recently had a knee replacement, and last year I felt the whole year was waiting for this operation to happen, and for various health reasons it didn't. Well, it's happened now. And so this year I had a meeting with Jessie, and we have planned out a lot of workshops and meditations that I'm doing, that I want to do over the course of the following year, because I find in a workshop situation you're able to help far more people in a sort of shorter space of time, to introduce some of these tools that they can go on and help themselves. If they then feel that they need a bit of one-to-one, they can come to me and join me, you know, in person on a one-to-one basis, because obviously with workshops it's quite a broad thing. So that's, I think, the area I really want to develop this year, is getting these workshops and helping more people, getting more people understanding, and along with doing more work with the forks.
Yes. And the last question I have for you is, what keeps you curious about the work that you do?
I think, having spent the whole of my childhood up until my early 20s, probably no, late 20s, believing everything that was said to me as a child, because at that age dyslexia wasn't recognised, so I was considered to be thick, stupid, didn't listen, various ways, of, why don't you get this right? To suddenly doing an access course when I was probably 26, 27, and discovering, one, that I was dyslexic, and two, that I actually liked learning. So for me, I now just love learning, and I'm always curious to know more. Curious to know that I've got more tools in my toolbox to be able to help more people.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps me curious.
Oh, thank you very much. And do you have any recommendations for people listening today, Sarah Jane?
As in what aspect?
So are there any books that people might like to read if they've listened to what you've explained? Say, for example, EFT, is there a particular book that you could share?
I'm one for audio books. So I'm a strong believer in, you have to actually go with what sounds right to you. Because what I may enjoy as a book, somebody else may not. One book I would definitely say every person needs to listen to is The Secret, by Rhonda. I'm not sure of her surname. But The Secret opens your mind to thinking differently. It allows you to see how much more control you can have of your own life and your own destiny by thinking differently. And I'm a strong believer in mindset is 100% key to the changes you make.
No, I agree with you. Mindset has a lot to do with our motivation, where are we going, and how we perceive life, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And learning control is something, it can be, and we can do that step by step. It doesn't have
yeah.
to be a huge jump. We can do those as little bits and pieces. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming along today, Sarah Jane.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me, Sarah.